Hi, my name is Ben Sutter III, and I'm founder and owner of BS3 Radio. I've been podcasting for 5 years, and with BS3 Radio, it has grown to over 46,000 listens and downloads. I've helped hundreds of people to start a podcast by giving them the knowledge, tools, and confidence to be successful. Now I'm here to help you do the same with BS3 coaching. So let's build a successful podcast. I will be your podcast coach. We'll be able to work one-on-one. I won't be giving you a booklet and just telling you to look over it, but we'll be working one-on-one, side by side, to either help build up a successful podcast or to take your podcast to the next level. So click the link above or below to check out the pricing. I look forward to working with you, and God bless. All right. Welcome, everyone, to Late Night with BS3. And on tonight's show, we got a really, really special show. We'll be introducing and promoting some of the new shows that we have on BS3 Radio. We have a few new shows that we will be touching on tonight, and we'll be talking to some of the show hosts. So first off, thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and click that bell so you can be on top of all the great content. If you're watching on Facebook, thank you. Give us a thumbs up. And if you're watching on Twitter, please share. Please retweet, share the show. Thank you once again, everyone, for tuning in tonight. So tonight we'll be talking with some of the newest BS3 radio shows. First up, Raising a YBK. This is a show with a mom and son. They weren't able to come on the show tonight. This is actually Amy, which is the mom. It's her birthday this weekend, so she was not able to come on. But I do have a clip that I have together that you'll be able to check out with her show with her son, Raising a YBK, a young Black king. And I think that's a really special show. Also, we'll be talking with Jason McMinn, also a.k.a. Jay McLevin of the Unscripted podcast. He's also a fairly new show. We'll be talking with DeAnthony Thompson tonight about the school song for the University of Texas, and it's called The Eyes of Texas. There's a lot of controversy going on right now, so we'll be touching on that with him tonight. And then last but not least, hopefully we'll be able to get Vinnie Hardy of Cats Talk Wednesday. He has a show that's on BS3 Radio as well, which is strictly dedicated to basketball, and that's Kentucky basketball. So we'll be touching base with him tonight as well, if he's able to come on. Also, we may touch on some other things. WandaVision, if you guys have checked that out, we'll touch on that series. I thought it was really well done. I'm a big Marvel fan. Also, UNC beat Duke. So shout out to all my UNC Tar Heel fans, and peace out to all my Dukies out there. We basically swept it this year. We did sweep it this year. So big shout out to my Tar Heels. And also we got UFC 259 and the NBA All-Star festivities going down tomorrow. It's going to be going down all in one day. So that makes this even more interesting. But again, thank you those for tuning in. Make sure to like, subscribe. Make sure to also comment. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know how your week was, and chime in on some of the topics that we'll be touching on tonight on tonight's show. Thank you to all the BS3 Radio hosts, continuing to do a great job putting out great content. Unscripted with Jason McMinn, a.k.a. Jay McLevin. That was on earlier today, and they interviewed Rob Parker. And Rob Parker is a Fox Sports analyst. So he was on their show earlier today. We also had Courtney Harden. He had a show as well with Curls and Sports, our very own Erica Fernandez. So that was another great opportunity and another great show that we had today. But before we go any further, let's get into this clip. This clip is by Raising a YBK. Now, originally the name of the show was called You Gonna Learn Today, and then they changed it to a new title and a new name. But they do a very good job. Like I said, it's a mother and son. Shout out to my sister. She is the one that put us in contact, and really extremely happy to have them a part of BS3 Radio, and I think they do a great job with their show. And also, it talks, and it's something that is relatable. We all can relate to things happening when we were growing up. We can all relate to, different conversations that you remember having with your parent. We can all kind of relate to those types of things. And I think that brings a really great perspective, on this show, and also with them being a part of BS3 Radio. So let's get into this clip so you can learn a little bit more about the show. They're fairly new. They're about 9 podcasts in. We'll have a clip from their very first episode so you get to know what they're all about. And then a clip from the most recent, one of the most recent episodes. So we'll get into that right now. Let me pull it up and share my screen so you can see that. And
you gonna learn today. Today, I am Amy, aka Mom, and this is my handsome, intelligent son, Messiah, aka the Son.
Oh, I thought I was gonna say my name.
Oh, you can say your name.
No,
go ahead.
No.
Messiah, aka the Son, and we're coming to you for our first episode of. Really? Are you telling the people to call you?
No.
You think it's some cute girls gonna be watching?
No, I'm good.
You good?
Yeah.
You sure?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. You see, he got his basketball. He can't go anywhere without that. It's attached to his hip. Yeah. Everywhere he goes, he's got a basketball, right? So this is the first episode of You Gonna Learn Today, and it's a fresh new take on the relationship between a parent and a child, in our case, a mom and her son. And, we felt like in this time, in this era, in this day and age, with technology and so much happening, current events and different things going on in the world, we had something to say, right? We had something to say? Yeah. Well, we thought that this would be the perfect time to go ahead and express how parents and kids relate to one another. And, there's no handbook that comes with being a parent, being a mom, or being a dad. And there's definitely not a handbook that comes with being a son or being a daughter. Everyone just has their role, right? And so Messiah and I felt that because we have such an awesome relationship as a mom and a son, and we have such amazing conversations with one another, you can see he's very unique individual, as is his mother. We felt like who but us to bring you a fresh new look on how to parent in this new age. So every week we're going to be coming to you live with some videos on different topics, and eventually we want you to come and write in and tell us what you want to hear about, what you want to discuss.
In the comment section.
We're going to talk about it all, right?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about it all. So,
you want to hear a joke?
Yeah, tell me.
You know what's not attached?
What?
Your edges.
Oh! Roasted! Fire extinguisher!
They said, whoop doo doo, bye.
So, this is the normal, right? So, when you have adolescents or a preteen, a teenager or a teenager or a middle school child, this is what they do, right? On a regular. They always joking. They always got something, fresh to say. This is the normal, right? This is what life looks like with a child, a son, a daughter, especially when they are, starting to feel themselves a little bit. And so we're going to talk about it all here on You Gonna Learn Today, because life is a big lesson. And so let's learn together and grow. So that's what our show is going to be all about. We want you to join us every week as we discuss how to navigate this crazy, crazy world that we're living in, these crazy times that we're in. And I don't know, Sai, you have anything you want to add? You have anything you want to say to the people?
Nope, not really. I mean,
I pretty much said it all, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
You did all the talking.
Welcome, kings and queens. You are now listening to Raising a YBK with Amy and
Messiah.
We want to talk about being a kidpreneur. So that's, a trendy word. We hear kidpreneur a lot, mompreneur, which basically is
Entrepreneur.
right. It's an entrepreneur, a kid who decides that they want to have their own business, right? And why not start early, right? Why not start the game of business ownership at a young age? At least get your foot in the door if you want to, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about being a kidpreneur. And so you consider yourself being a kidpreneur?
Yeah.
Yeah. In what way?
Like the podcast.
So
Just a little bit.
yeah, I mean, you're getting there. You're getting there, right? We're definitely on this journey together. And being a kidpreneur is something that will help you in the long run. So all of those out there, children who have these great ideas and you're like, well, I would love to be able to forge my own path.
All right. So that was a clip of our new show, one of our new shows, which is called Raising a YBK. And the name of that show, Raising a YBK, it stands for Young Black King. And I think that's a great show, especially for right now. We see a lot of negative things that are out there. We see a lot of things of parents not being good parents. So we're seeing things about kids being bad and things of that nature. But this is a really great show because it allows a mom and her son to be able to, I think, have a great conversation about things that are going on right now in today's world. They talk about a lot of different things. They talked about colorism on an episode. They also talked about the presidency and the new president that we have and the former president. And also they do movie reviews. So they do a lot of different things. So I'm really excited about that show. Like I said, tonight we'll be talking about the new shows on BS3 Radio as well. We'll talk about some other things in between. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we will have Jason McMinn, aka J McLovin. That's his show name. And I think they do a great job. The name of their show is Unscripted. And with that show, they talk a variety of sports topics. That is their thing, talking sports. They do top 5. They do top 5 greatest defensive tackle, top 5 greatest NCAA football coach. They do a lot of different things. I'm really excited about them being on BS3 Radio as well. You can find the website, bs3radio.com. All of the content that you need will be there. So definitely you can check that out. Shout out to Emma. Thank you for tuning in. She said, good evening, blessings. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I truly appreciate that. So we got a couple of minutes here. Big shout out to North Carolina Tar Heels, like I mentioned, with a huge win over Duke. Duke has not been the same this year. Let's not get it, let's not get it twisted as if Duke was the same great team that they've always been. The same thing as North Carolina. North Carolina is not that great team like they've always been. There's been a lot of struggles this year. A ton of struggles on both sides with both of these teams. So it's not, I am surprised, frankly, how this season is gone, but I'm somewhat not surprised just because, there's COVID going on. Then not to mention there's kids that are injured. So there's a lot of different factors. But my North Carolina Tar Heels have officially swept Duke, and they have gone 2-0 this year. They'll be going into the ACC tournament, so that's something excited to be looking forward to. I don't know how it's going to go, just because with everything going on, obviously with COVID, with some kids opting out, that's another thing that's really started to happen as of late is, guys opting out and deciding that they do not want to play, their first year, their last year, or however many years they have left. So that is a very interesting aspect to where everything is going right now. But, the good news is we swept Duke, and it really doesn't get any better than that. So they had a big win today. They were celebrating. I posted that to the YouTube, so you can check out that short clip of my guys celebrating this win. And it was, I would say it was hard fought, but I don't think it was really hard fought because the team is just not the same. That Duke team is not the same anymore. So let me pull up the standings. Let me pull up the standings for the ACC as it goes into the tournament. And it was a 91-73. 91-73. Shout out to all my friends and family that are Duke fans. Yes, you guys got swept this year. Congratulations. But if you look at the conference, you got Virginia is number 1 at 13-4. You got Florida State 11-4, which North Carolina beat them this year in an upset. Virginia Tech's right there at 9-4. This is in conference play. Georgia Tech 11-6, and then UNC 10-6. So there's definitely an opportunity to potentially go on a run. It's not going to be easy for sure. It's probably going to be one of the hardest things that Coach Ward Williams has had to coach, especially with a team like this and a lot of these circumstances. But to be able to sweep Duke in a season, I cannot remember, honestly, when the last time that happened. I can't really think of the last time that it happened, but it is great to see. Also, let's give you guys an update on UFC 259, which is going on currently right now. The big headline is Israel Adesanya is going to be going up against Jan Blachowicz. So that should be a big time fight going down today. Let me go to the results, what we got so far. They're about to get to the main card. The last fight was Dominic Cruz defeats Casey Kinney. But the main 3 fights, Israel Adesanya going up against Jane Blachowicz, also Amanda Nunes defending her title against Megan Anderson, and then Petra Yan going up against Jamin Sterling. So this is a big time UFC card, and they do a really good job. That is one thing that I truly respect about the UFC. They pull out great cards every single opportunity. Every single card is, I think, a very well put together card. They put together quite a bit of talent, and I'm always impressed. I'm always truly impressed with what they do and how they do it and how they put it together, because when it comes down to it, you can put out some lackluster cards and just put something out. But they seem to put out really, I think, very, very talented guys, very talented fighters. But those of you tuning in, let me know if you're watching the UFC tonight or what you're going to be doing tonight. Let me bring in my guy, Jay McLevin, here in a minute. He popped in early. So let me go ahead and get him on the show. Jay, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, Mr. Suttereth?
Doing good, man. Great to get you on the show tonight. Thank you for reaching out and joining BS3 Radio. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. Totally.
Definitely. I know you got the H-Town hat on, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so my name is Jay McLovin. I kind of started out with the Whiskey Hour with me and my boy Phil Tross. He's still in the network, but he's part of Armed Forces Sports Network, AFN, and he's still doing good stuff with those guys. And kind of started out with those guys over at Whiskey Hour and stuff. So that's how I got my started. And then from there, I kind of went on to another network and kind of did a little bit with those guys. And then I networked with my boy Big Shaw and Logan Landers, and wound up. I said, "Hey, let's form a show, but I don't want it to be scripted. I want it to be just off the cuff, just anything we want to talk about, not necessarily pinned down to one specific subject." And Unscripted was kind of born out of that chaos, and here we are right now.
Yeah, and I think you guys do a really good job. I think it's creative. I really like what you guys do because, you could talk about the top 5 NCAA coaches one day, and then you could be talking about the Negro Leagues the next day.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
It encompasses, a lot of great topics. But talk about your wife as a part of the show as well, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, I said to myself, my wife is actually a teacher by trade, or she's going to be a teacher by trade. She just is getting ready to graduate from Georgia State Southern and teaching. So she's in her internship right now, but she's a great public speaker and she's got a great personality. She's kind of Southernistic charm like me. And I said, "Hey, babe, why don't you come on and do a show with me?" And she's kind of like, "I don't know, it's kind of like whatever." And I'm like, "No, babe, come on the show." I said, "I don't see a lot of women on shows these days, and I think it'd be a great addition." One thing about Unscripted I want to point out is number one, I really like to promote women. We just had the women's football team on not too long ago. I think women are very underappreciated in sports and for what they do. And so I just wanted to bring her on to kind of be an advocate for that gender or that portion of sports that's maybe is not necessarily talked about. The Negro Leagues, that's just part of Black History Month, and I wanted to kind of spotlight a little bit about that. I think a lot of people forget the Negro Leagues just became part of Major League Baseball, and Major League Baseball just recognized the value that the Negro Leagues brought to baseball. And, for some people, like, for example, Big Shaw on our show, he's very sensitive when it comes to that topic. But I feel like if you don't talk about it, then it kind of gets forgotten. And I don't want to forget about probably some of the best baseball players that ever played the game. Yeah. And I think sometimes we forget about those guys. I think we don't get talked enough about those guys. And I want to kind of bring those guys to the spotlight to kind of bring affluence to them or bring some kind of credibility for what they brought, not only to sports, but to culture as in large. Yeah,
and you're right. I mean, they have influenced Major League Baseball in a major way, pun intended. And a lot of guys went to Major League Baseball. Some guys maybe wouldn't have known about baseball without having that Negro League present and a lot of great things those guys did. And I appreciate how you guys didn't just talk about, some of the biggest names we all know. We know Satchel Paige. A lot of people know Satchel Paige.
Right.
Willie Mays and a lot of the guys that helped to forge. But you guys talked about some of the other people. And I just want to say I really appreciate that.
Yeah, because it's true. Everyone knows about Josh Gibson. God, what a stalwart that guy was. And the thing about the thing about the Negro Leagues is their records weren't exactly 100% documented. So there's no telling how much more Josh Gibson actually did, for the game of baseball than what he did, because those records weren't 100% recorded. So he could have done so much further than what he actually did. Everybody knows Josh Gibson. Everybody knows, of course, Jackie Robinson. Everybody knows, Satchel Paige. But not many other people know about, Charleston Robinson or the other ones that made up that game so it's good to bring light to the ones that people don't know about, because if we don't talk about it, then it gets forgotten. And the last thing I want people to do is forget about probably one of the important pieces of the fabric that makes up the sports today.
Yeah, definitely. That's 100% true. Now talk about the teams that you're a fan of. I know you rep H-Town every show. So I know that's a huge part of it, but talk about the teams that you're a fan of.
Yeah. This is how my life started out. I've always been 100% Rockets. I've always been 100% Astros. where it kind of differentiated for me was football. I grew up at the early age with the Houston Oilers and my pops because I'm from Houston. But for some reason, I never really liked the way Bum Adams ran the team. And somewhere along the line of between 1976 and 1979, I said, you know what? I think I just really like the way Tom Landry runs that Cowboys team. That fedora and that Starbuck and that Randy White. And, you know, I just said, you know what? I Bob Lilly. I said, you know what? I'm Tony Dorsett. I really feel like I'm gravitating more toward that. I would never leave the state of Texas. Let's be honest. I'm a Texan tried and true. I'll never go out beyond the side of Texas. But Texas only got 2 football teams, and that's either the Oilers or the Cowboys. And like I said, I felt like Bud Adams was not doing enough to help the Houston Oilers to win a championship. So I said, I'm gravitating towards my second team, the Cowboys. And since 1978, I have been a Dallas Cowboys fan, tried and true. And it has been a tumultuous up and down season with those guys. But I'm still a Cowboys fan no matter what.
Yeah, you can say that 100 times over. It's been definitely a rocky road. Shout out to my man A-Trap B tuning in on YouTube. Thank you for that. But it's been crazy as of late, especially with this Dak situation. Are they going to sign Dak? Are they not going to sign Dak? And then you just have 10 years of mediocrity, 10 years of just average or even below average. Since I got you on the show, do you think they're going to re-sign Dak, or you think he's going to end up walking?
No, Jerry Jones. Listen, Jerry Jones. It's interesting you say that because, you know, it's interesting. When it came to Tony Romo, Jones was all about signing that guy. Like, you never had to worry about if Tony Romo was going to get his contract or not. That guy had that man on lockdown and everything. I mean, it was not a question. It was never a question. Even with Aikman, never questioned. It just seems to me that the first time we had a question was with Dak Prescott. I think he's going to franchise tag him again. I don't think he's ready to give him a long-term contract because I don't think he knows the value of Dak Prescott. I like Dak. I really like Dak. I think Dak is a second-tier level quarterback. I just hate to say that, but he is. You got your elites. You got the Mahomes, the Rodgers, you know, stuff like that. But, you know, I feel like Dak has not gone enough to get to that level 1 yet. I think he's right at about level 2, but he's trying to get level 1 money. And I think Jerry Jones is struggling to give him level 1 money. I just think he is. So I think he's willing to franchise tag him 1 more year, see what he does. And of course, and the problem is he's coming off, you know, a really major knee injury. So we don't know that Dak Prescott we're truly going to get back anyway, because you never know what a knee injury is going to produce. It could go one way, which would be successful, or it can go another way and he can have more issues down the road. We don't know the Dak Prescott we're going to get next year. So I don't know if Jerry Jones is willing to invest the big dollars in Dak, given that he's got injuries. So I think he's going to give him another franchise tag, and I think he's going to wait and see. But I don't think anything's going to come of it. I think Dak's going to be the Prescott. It's going to be the quarterback of next year. Now, after next year, then, of course, you know, we'll be up again in the same conversation.
Yeah, and you're right about that. I definitely think Jerry's having a little bit of a problem with paying him that much money. But the fact is they've paid lots of money to all types of random guys that shouldn't have been paid a lot of money, or they were kept on for too long. So I think at the end of the day, and also Jerry Jones and this organization does not like change. It is hard for them to let quarterbacks go. It's hard for them to say, Tony Romo, you know, it's time to go, or somebody gets past their limit, or, you know, holding on to guys for so long. So I think eventually it'll happen. But and I think it's the market. That's what I think this whole conversation, that's the reason why it's gone that way. It's because it's the market and how these other guys are getting paid. And Dak has an agent, and I guarantee you his agent is going to try to get him the absolute most money. But I think he'll be, I agree with you. I think he'll be in a Cowboys jersey week 1. He probably will be franchised. I'll be not shocked. I'll be surprised if they get a deal done, because they're seeming to be far apart as soon as the further along we go with this.
Right, and I believe, I think you can only, correct me if I'm wrong, and I may be wrong on this. I think you can only franchise tag 2 times, and then the third time you have to be either cut bait or make the offer.
Right, that's true.
And that's why I think he gets 1 more franchise tag. I think the Cowboys see what they got next year in him. but I would not be at all surprised next year if Dak isn't traded for somebody else. Unless he just comes out and wows factors, I just don't think that Jerry Jones believes enough in Dak to give him the long-term. I just don't think so. Not for what Dak is asking for. Dak is asking for, above the $500 million, 10-year reign. And I don't think he's just going to get that from Jerry Jones. I don't think Jerry Jones believes enough in him to give him that kind of money. I think if he's willing to take the 31 or 37 million, then Jerry Jones, of course, will pull the trigger. But I think if he's trying to get the $40 million, I don't think that Jerry Jones is going to pull that trigger. And I would not be surprised if there was a Russell Wilson for Dak Prescott or something similar to that trade in the near future.
Yeah, and that's been coming up, especially with the situation with Russ, which has kind of caught me off guard because I thought he was okay, with being in in Seattle, and now it's appearing to look like that he is unhappy. And I was not expecting that to come out. You also got Deshaun Watson. What happened? What happened if Deshaun Watson says, "I want to come to Dallas"? Is that a possible deal? So you have that. You have both of those. That could be a potential destination trade.
Absolutely, and I've talked about that several times on Unscripted. Of course, Big Shaw just shuts me down every time, but and that's okay. Hey, look, that man's got his own opinion, and I love about Unscripted. We all have our own opinions, and I think that's what makes it so special. I've said that numerous times where I feel like Deshaun Watson for Dak Prescott would work out for both teams because, number one, it's an even trade, right? Mm-hmm. In other words, neither one of the teams have to have to mortgage their future in draft picks. You can it's just an even swap for swap. So I'm not giving up my future to take on another contract. I could just do an even swap with these guys. And to me, that makes the absolute most sense. Will that happen? I don't know, but absolutely, I think that makes the most sense. And I'm more than happy to take on Deshaun Watson in the Cowboys uniform because I love Deshaun Watson. I'm a big believer in that guy. Then again, too, we got Alex Smith coming up on the market right now that just got released from Washington. So he's out of the market. Deshaun Watson's on the trade market. I would not be surprised if New England makes a run at either Deshaun Watson or Alex Smith to provide that QB1 spot for those guys. I think right now they're in the major hunt. And I definitely think Belichick is looking for somebody other than Cam Newton to lead his team going into next year.
Yeah. And Belichick is that sneaky guy. People forget that he's figured out multiple ways, numerous different times to bend around the rules. If there's a rule there, he is guaranteed to figure out what you need to do to get around that rule. And that's why I got a lot of respect for him. Some people don't. Some people call him a cheater. They call him. I just say he's the biggest opportunist on earth.
He is absolutely.
And you can't hate a guy for that for finding a way to wiggle around things. Now, when they catch him, obviously he doesn't do it again. He films some people sometimes, but he figures out a way to get around it, and that could be a destination spot for a lot of these quarterbacks. You're right. Now, Alex Smith, I'm shocked that he's coming back. I don't know if he's going to come back another year or not, but I think that would be interesting to see where he goes. But going back to Unscripted, once again, we got Jay McLevin. He is one of the newest shows on BS3 Radio. Talk about the other co-hosts. I know you mentioned Big Shaw. Also, you got Logan Landers. So talk about those two guys and how the dynamic of having the four of you guys on the show together.
Yeah. So Logan Landers is kind of like our tech guru guy. He knows all the technical ins and outs of the world. And so he's really valued on that aspect, but he's also very, he also runs 100 Yards of Football, which is another radio show podcast. He's very analytical. He's very smart. He's very driven. He's very, he has his own, technical opinion to the sides of sports. I'm more the emotional guy. Okay, I got my emotional spat. I think kind of Big Shaw kind of has his more like analytical side of things. I think Big Shaw is an interesting character. He's very smart. Big Shaw is very, very extremely smart in the ways of sports. And me and Big Shaw tend to latch horns from time to time on difference of opinions. But I respect Big Shaw 100%. And Logan is just kind of more or less our facilitator. If I had to say anything for Logan, He's basically our facilitator on the show. He facilitates the in-between gaps of me and Big Shaw in the show. And that's why it's unscripted, because quite honestly, me and Big Shaw, we have an idea of what the show is going to be. But by the time we start talking our topics and giving our opinions, it kind of goes in the north, south, east, west direction. And Logan is our North Star. And everything always points back to the north. And I think Logan is that guy that kind of brings me and Big Shaw back to the north facility and keeps the show rolling from one topic to the next.
Yeah. And I did see that he is a part of 100 Yards of Football, which I have a friend that also was guesting on that show. So, yeah, I know a little bit about them. And then Big Shaw also does his own thing. And I love when you guys go kind of around the horn and it comes to Big Shaw, because his opinion is going to be number one, it's going to be funny, and number two, it's going to be rock solid in whatever it is that he believes in. So that's always a great aspect of the show.
The thing I love about Big Shaw is he's a man of many words. if you can read between the lines, that's my version of sarcasm. I said, Big Shaw, we got to fill at least 30 minutes worth of time here on all these topics. I want to keep it at least to 30 minutes. And, of course, me and Logan, we'll give our spiel. Logan will give his spiel. And then when it comes to Big Shaw, it's like maybe 3 words, 4 words most, unless it's a controversial topic. Now, if it's a controversial topic, I can stretch it out to about an hour. But if there's no controversy there, Big Shaw's about 3, maybe 4 words, and it's just okay crap.
It's a wrap.
It's done. It's just done with Big Shaw. But that's how he operates. That's just how Big Shaw operates, and I respect him for that. He gives his opinion on when he wants to, and then when he wants to take the silent neutral side, he gives that too. And me and Logan, it's our job to adjust fire and carry the show forward.
Yeah. I love it. Shout out to Anthony Lansdowne. Also, his nickname is Big Illinois. He's from the Illinois area, so thank you for tuning in tonight. We appreciate you. Everybody uses nicknames. I think you know that. So.
Oh, absolutely. Like, hey, McLovin, where the hell does McLovin come from? I thought your last name was McMinn. I said, yeah, it is McMinn. But I kind of go back to the old shows where Mr. McLovin, was back in the old school shows, and yeah. If you remember old was it Breaking Bad and things like that, you pick up on that reference. But yeah.
Definitely.
That's not where it comes from.
So you guys do shows on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Is that right?
Yeah, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 Eastern and Saturdays at 12 Eastern. And, of course, those shows, as much as life has it, man, they're about maybe 5 to 10, 15 minutes differentials. But roughly it's about 9 Eastern on Tuesdays and Thursdays and 12 Eastern noon on Saturdays.
Definitely. And then the podcast comes over to BS3 Radio, so you got the audio side so you can hear it. You can also see it. We're working on getting their live shows onto the BS3 Radio Facebook page as well, so you guys can catch it out there. And then also talk about today's show. That was a big show today with Rob Parker from Fox.
Right. Like I said, I have pursued this man for a better part of since December, trying to get this man on the show, and he finally came on the show, and I'm so thankful for it, because this guy's been an idol of mine. When I look at analysts and things like that, you got the Stephen A's, the Skip Bayless, the Max Kellermans, whatever. I've always looked at Rob Parker as the kind of guy that I want to be like, or want to have a show similar to. And finally, the man finally agreed to come on the show. And he came on the show today, and we talked a little bit about sports. And he gave us his insights on sports. And then towards the end, we talked a little bit about, how to become more than just a podcaster to get to that next level, to maybe even towards the direction of where he is. And Rob Parker gave his feedback. And, of course, as always, man, it was just so inspirational. Number one, to be able to talk to him, number two, to get his insights. And Rob Parker was just an amazing guy on the show today. And he talked a lot about baseball and the fact that the San Diego Padres, which I want to let nobody know, I said San Diego Padres are the team to look out for this year, going to the World Series and winning it. And Rob Parker agreed with that. And he actually confirmed my intuition to be true. And I'll tell you what the San Diego Padres have done with their rotation, and of course their lineup is just phenomenal. And look out for the San Diego Padres this year coming up. And I'm a Houston Astros fan, but man, those Padres, they're just phenomenal.
I agree, man. I mean, they could have had an opportunity last year. You think about all the guys that they signed, especially going into the playoffs. Some of the guys that they traded for, they're all in. Like the chips are all on the table. It's either it's win or go home. It's World Series or bust is how they feel with the way based on the way they're sounding. Also, Fernando Tatis, who just got paid a massive deal. That is huge for them. And they've been looking at pitching. A-Trap says no way, no how. He said Chicago. He's a White Sox fan.
I get it, man. Hey, White Sox are looking pretty good. They just brought in Tony La Russa to lead up that team, and Tony La Russa, as we all know, is a big time coach. But listen, man, there's so many teams on the American League side of things to compete against the White Sox. But I will say this: I do expect the White Sox to be in the hunt for the AL side of the pennant. So, yeah, absolutely. White Sox are looking pretty good. Astros, maybe a little bit. Tampa Bay Devil Rays, well, they lost Snell, so maybe a little bit. So, yeah. I look at the A's. I think the Oakland A's, and I think the White Sox are very, very well looking like legitimate contenders for that spot to the AL crown to compete for the World Series. Absolutely. I agree with that.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point with the A's. The A's are somehow always in the mix. You just never know when they're gonna make their run. And I grew up in California, so I grew up an A's fan. Love going to A's games with my dad. Love going to Giants fans with my dad. But the A's just got Elvis Andrews, who I'm a Rangers fan, so they just made a trade for him. So they always have that possibility to get in there. Let me see. A-Trap says, look at the NL East and the Dodgers. Yeah, the Dodgers just got even better than what they were last year. And it's theirs to lose, I think, this year. I think they definitely got all the pieces possible. And they just added the pitcher. I'm trying to think of who they just picked up. I think it was Kleber that they just picked up. So, I mean, they're only.
You mean Kleber from Cleveland?
Yeah, I think they picked up. Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, and I agree with you, man. I think those Dodgers are looking nice, man. Honestly, the Dodgers have looked nice last year. You know, when they snuck past the Atlanta Braves, they look good. I get it, man. I really do. But I think people are sneaking out on these Padres, and I think these Padres are going to be the ones that really come up that back door and just snip you in the butthole, and they'd be like, "Oh, damn."
Right.
Where these cats come from? I think it's going to be that kind of team, and I really think the Whites. I can see. Okay, I'll call it right now. I'm gonna call it right now. I know my Astros aren't going to make it. They're going to get up a good fight. The Astros were going to get up a good fight, but we lost Springer, which is a big cog that we lost.
Yeah.
So I know and the Astros were in Tampa Bay Devil Rays, where they went all the way to Game 7. So I think the Astros are going to be probably that third team out of the AL. I think the two teams are going to be the A's and the White Sox battling it out for that particular part. I'd say the White Sox and Padres World Series with Padres winning it.
Ooh, all right. A-Trap will be happy about that part, about the White Sox being in there. He won't be happy about them losing it. But, hey, Padres got a really good squad, and I'm excited with baseball season coming up. Seems like we'll have a full year. I don't know if they've come to a conclusion on how many games, or they're still working on that, but we should have a full-fledged season, but that's going to be exciting. But before I let you go, let us know what you have coming up next week on the show. I don't know if you guys plan that far out, or what you may have for next week.
Yeah, next week, I look at more. I think it's going to be more or less current events. I think we're going to probably maybe bring in Pete Thorlashis from West Coast Card Breaks. He's just kind of like a guy that does like a lot of baseball card selling, but he knows the sports, which is really amazing to me. So I think we're going to bring in Pete probably for a guest appearance on Tuesday's show. But I see Tuesday kind of more or less being current events and things that are going on within the week of basketball, baseball, And of course, anything leading up to the draft. I think we're going to try to do a draft party at some point leading up to the draft. So be lookout for that. But right now we got the jersey. The biggest thing we got going on right now is our jersey giveaway, which is if you like, share, and comment. Basically, if you share and comment, that's pretty much where it's currently. That's what I'm tracking the most, is sharing and commenting. If you share and comment, I'm basically going to give you a jersey of your choice, basically meaning the team and style that you want. I can't guarantee the player because I work with my supplier on that. But, man, if you want, let's say if you want Atlanta Falcons jersey, it's going to be the real deal. I mean, stitched, like that $150 jersey. I mean, it's going to be nice. So that's what we got going on for the month of March, and the jersey will be given away in April. That's our biggest thing going on. But next, it comes Tuesday, I think we're talking about current events.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the show tonight. I know it's a little bit later over there for you, but thank you for coming on. We're glad to have you a part of BS3 Radio. Glad to help you as well and whatever you guys need. And shout out to all the crew. So Logan Landers, Big Shaw, and also your wife, Melanie, which does a great job kind of pushing things along and bringing up the topic. So keep doing what you're doing.
Absolutely. And thank you, BS3 Radio, for having us on. We really, really appreciate you guys.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good night.
All right, y'all have a good one. I'm out of here.
All right, peace. All right, that's my one of our other newest shows. His name is Jason McMinn, aka Jay McLovin, is his show name, and they do a really good job. Unscripted, which is on Facebook, just like it's spelled, Unscripted. It's a lot of their shows are shared on the BS3 Radio Facebook page, and you go to Facebook, just type in Unscripted. Also go to bs3radio.com. Their show is listed on there under sports, so you can check that out. Shout out to Kimberly Rice Cofield. Thank you for tuning in. Her and her husband do a really good job. They are music artists, Christian hip hop artists, do a really good job at what they do. Coming up in about 11 minutes, we will get into the Eyes of Texas controversy. So if you're not aware, the University of Texas, UT, the Texas Longhorns, their school song is called The Eyes of Texas. And it's kind of based on a quote from someone that made that kind of quote and made it happen. And with that with that quote in the song, and the song is not the song is really not where the controversy is. It's where the song was sung. And I wanted to make sure I did some research on this, and I'll read the name of the song to you with the lyrics, just so you can kind of see what it exactly says. So the name of the song is "The Eyes of Texas Are Upon You All the Live Long Day," and it kind of has a rhyme to "working on the railroad." But so the eyes of Texas are upon you all the live long day. The eyes of Texas are upon you. You cannot get away. Do you think you can escape them at night or early in the morn? The eyes of Texas are upon you till Gabriel blows his horn. And this was from a quote. And let me look up exactly who that quote is from. But it's becoming a controversy because there's some players for the University of Texas that do not want that song played anymore. And so the quote is from Robert E. Lee. Robert E. Lee made a quote saying "The eyes of Texas are upon you," and that's inside the song. But the song a long time ago was sung at minstrel shows, which, if you're not familiar with what a minstrel show is, it was when people went into blackface. So they would paint their faces black and then they would sing the song. So a lot of the players on the University of Texas team are, number one, not happy with that. And number two, they don't want the song played. And it's becoming more and more of a controversy and more of a situation, because the new coach that just came in there, which is Steve Sarkisian, said that we're going to play the song, and that it is what it is. But the players don't agree with that. So we're going to have DeAnthony Thompson. He'll be coming on the show here in just a moment to talk about that. And that should be an interesting conversation because I know he is a Longhorns fan. And so we're going to get his take on it. And if you guys know anything about it, comment, let me know what you think. Let me know what your thoughts and opinions are on this song. But it's becoming more and more of a controversy, which I understand. And a lot of these songs, a lot of these fight songs, a lot of these statues bring up something inside of people when it brings back that moment of slavery. For some people, it brings back that moment of just the way Black people were treated during that time. And you're seeing it throughout the country. There's a lot of different places where people do not want the statues there. There's songs that people definitely feel should be changed. And I understand. I mean, a lot of people feel a certain way about it, and I don't think you shouldn't discredit how people feel. And I think you have to listen, and I think you have to approach it in a way that is respectful to the person that's bringing these things up to you. I think that's a very important aspect about this, and a lot of other things that have been coming up as of late. Throughout all of these songs and some of these, statues that have been put up of Confederate leaders and things of that nature. And I think it's important that we consider that and that we consider those people. So we got a couple minutes before he comes on the show. And what I want to do is I want to talk about WandaVision. All right. Let me know if you guys have watched it, how you feel about it. Do you feel like it was a good work from Disney, not Disney / Marvel, which I thought it was well done. I am going to say the first couple episodes, I was just ready to turn it off because it just seemed like, where is this going? What exactly is this about? And why am I watching this? That's what I was thinking the first episode, which was called Film Before a Live Studio Audience. And as it continued to go along, you started to get a better sense and kind of a better respect for this special. So we're going to talk about each episode. I know we have DeAnthony coming on. We may also have Vinnie Hardy coming on at about 10:30. So we'll see if he will be free tonight to drop in with us. But the first episode was called Film Before a Live Studio Audience. And it talks about Wanda and Vision. Those of you that are Marvel fans, let me know if you watched it and how you feel. But the first episode was in black and white. Also, it had some of the neighbors in it. It had Agnes. Now, if you've seen it all, then you know what happened with Agnes. Agnes is popping up. They had a lot of different people popping up, which I thought was interesting. Also, the interesting part of it was the commercials. So they would have a commercial that was was by Stark Industries. And we know, if you're a Marvel fan at all, Stark Industries is a part of Marvel. And that is, a major part of Iron Man. So if you know that, then you know that that's where that comes from, Tony Stark, Stark Industries. So that was the interesting plug-in when it came down to the beginning of it. Then it goes to the next one. So the first episode was based in the 1950s. You go to the next episode, that was based in the 1960s. And it kind of touched on Wanda and Vision hearing strange noises throughout the house. Agnes showing up even more. And I just figured out that the character of Wanda is Mary Kate and Ashley. If you know Mary Kate and Ashley, the Olsen twins, that's their sister. Now that I did not know. I learned something new. And frankly, I learned quite a lot about this show, and really about Marvel, because I'm a Marvel fan, but I got to be honest, I wasn't always watching every single thing that came out. But this gave a little bit of a backstory in a lot of things that was going on. So that was in 1960, and then they had a scene towards the end, which looked like a beekeeper coming up through the tunnel, and that put an interesting spin on this whole thing. And then you had Geraldine, which was in the movie in the series. That was another interesting part of it. You're starting to wonder, who are these people? But let's bring on DeAnthony here. We will get back into the conversation of WandaVision here in a minute.
Can you hear me, Ben?
Yep,
Hey,
I can hear you.
pretty good.
Doing good.
Yes, sir.
All right. So you definitely brought this up, and I figured it'd be good to get you on the show, especially while this is hot and everything is going on right now. But give me your takes. The Eyes of Texas, which is the school song. I did some research. I seen where the song started and where the song was being performed, which I think that's where the major part of the issue is. But go ahead and give me your thoughts on it first.
I think, to even start this thing, we got to paint the picture. I think when Steve Sarkisian, the new head coach of Texas, took the job, I don't know if that was a month ago, give or take, since he got it, they asked him about that. And I was surprised that was one of the first questions they asked. And they was like, what will Texas do? And he was like, we're going to stand for it. We're going to be proud. We're going to sing it, this, that, and the other. And when he said that, I was like, okay, I kind of expected that because that's his new employer. So he has to back, the company motto in a way.
Right.
But as it kind of it went away and kind of resurfaced again, this past week. Hearing some of the players, the way they feel, some of them got threatened. Some of the donors use languages such as the blacks or whatnot. And to me, if the players are really hurt, if they feel like they're threatened, then that lets me know that something is wrong on an institutional level. I honestly hope that the two can come together, but I think a lot of people don't know the history of the song as well. And that's something that I didn't know before this, but I don't think a lot of people really know the history of it as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of touched on that a little bit. It's a quote from Robert E. Lee. The eyes of Texas will always be upon you. And that's how the song became formed. And then the song was performed at minstrel shows where they were white people were painting themselves in blackface and performing this song. So that was another interesting part of this that I didn't realize, because you got to look back and you got to look and see why people don't like it. It's not just because it's not all of a sudden probably either. Probably a lot of people maybe didn't agree with the song, but they were at the school and they just felt like they're giving me this opportunity. But go ahead.
And I think I didn't know that. I thought somebody was saying that it was a kind of a tie-in to the prison chain gang industry, like working on the railroad. The song, the beat kind of sound like that. So I've heard that perspective of was it when the slaves was working on the railroad. So I haven't even heard that, what you just said. So see, you got a lot of different variations of even the meaning and what it means or whatnot. But I was a little upset when it came out. A lot of people were surprised by the language that was in the emails that the donors sent to, I think, Coach Herman. But I think the thing that really surprised me is, but it's not surprising to me, is I think this type of language is probably out there on the wealthy donor circuit in general. And I hate to be that guy, but I think, that type of language is probably out there amongst the wealthy donors. I think we're just surprised that it came out in the email and that it's kind of coming out so, messy in a way. But I'm not surprised by it, man. It'll probably be very interesting to see how these big money donors talk about these programs. That type of stuff may surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it is about money. And I think the most interesting thing is when the donors say, hey, if you don't do this, we're gonna start pulling money, or if you don't do this, we're gonna start not adding to this fund of this facility we're about to open. And then the players are like, well, hey, we're over here. We're the ones that's out there doing this. We're the ones that could be paralyzed at some point in our career. We're the ones that could be, affected long term in this. And I don't know if they're being truly considered, but the boosters run college football. People that, if you don't understand that, they run it. Without their money, this can honestly go nowhere.
Yeah. And I heard somebody say something interesting too. Somebody said this is simply a power play. Because I was making I think this on Twitter I was posting. I was like, can the two meet in the middle and sometimes, kind of like figure out a solution? Somebody was like, hey man, in so many words, you're not gonna teach an old dog new tricks. This is a power play. Ultimately, this is a power thing. And when a person mentioned this is a power thing, it's like it's like everything else in society. Because if it's about power, then the players are not gonna win it because the donors have the money. So who have the money have the say. So it's going to be interesting to see if this is going to become an issue to those who look to go to the institution. And I'm somebody that rooted for Texas growing up. I still want to see them do well from the Vince Young era, Mac Brown to now. I think they got a great chance to do something now. But it's like you got to handle what you got to handle. And this is something where, to me, if you're a top flight university, you have to look out for your players too. Yeah, we know the donors, they run a lot of this, but I also got to care about my players. And kind of something else a little bit. I didn't realize, man, when Nick Saban took that Alabama job, they had a lot of boosters around that program. And in so many words, Nick Saban was like, hey, let me run this thing if y'all want to win. And we see what happened.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like if you bring a guy in, you brought him in for a reason. You brought him in because you thought he could win you a national championship. Yeah. And then when he comes in, if you start to boss the person around or not allow them to really use their tools, i.e. Charlie Strong, you don't give him enough time to do what he needs to do. He comes in and cleans house, and they probably didn't agree with that. But you got to give, I think, the guy time, and you got to also allow them to implement their system. Each coach has their own system. Neither one's going to be the same. But that's a great point that you brought up about Saban. And Sarkisian comes in obedient. When he comes in and he made that statement, it was like, look, I'm not agreeing with the players at all. Like, y'all gonna do this. What a way to go in.
No feathers.
Exactly. Like, what a way to come into like this school with all this history and everything. But a majority of the players are Black. They are. And the other part of it too, like you said, well, how is this going to deter players from coming there? Because they already have had problems with recruiting. Like, does this add another wrinkle onto that problem? Yeah.
And if you want to go from a historic standpoint, like I say, I root for Texas from a home team perspective. I root for them. But even somebody made a point about Oklahoma, how they were one of the first ones to use the Black quarterback, and I think the wishbone offense, or one particular type of offense. I don't know the racial history and the climate of Texas going back to the 60s on up, but I think that we can kind of put our head together to see that it's been probably some issues in their history. So I just think we're at a time now where, though, the big money donors are going to have to figure out if they want to win or do they want to be the political kings. Because if you win, you might have to swallow a little bit of that pride. You might have to see how to meet in the middle. If you just want to win and it's going to be your show, well, you might not win no championships. You're going to have to pick one or the other.
Yeah, that's facts right there. You got to pick which level do you want to be on. Do you just want to be on? And that goes into other organizations as well, NFL and all of that. Do you want to be making the most money, or do you want to not make middle level money and win championships? Yeah. And that's what partly makes me think, like, what level are these schools like really on, and what do they really want to achieve? Yeah. And you could be holding yourself back.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing of it. It's like, but see, this is the thing. Now, if we're going to be critical, this has been the issue that has plagued that university for many years. It was that the donors run it, and we know they do in so many ways, but from a standpoint of too much control. So that was always the big gripe anyway. So seeing this and seeing, they send emails and kind of use some language that was kind of wild, that lets you know that was an issue. And it seemed like Well, last year it was. We'll see if it's going to be this year.
Yeah. Let me give a shout out to Al High. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Appreciate you a part of BS3 Radio. So where do you see this going? Either into this upcoming spring ball and everything.
The University of Texas, they did their own little commission thingy, I think, and I was trying to pull it up. I don't know if you can pull it up on there, but they're going to come out with their own report, and from what they say, that's going to be the final ruling. So I don't know if they're going to be pulling together different sources, pulling together PR groups, but they're doing their own report, and when they drop that, let's say in the next month or next week, that's going to be the final ruling. So it might be players, y'all need to stand up, but y'all don't have to sing. Y'all don't have to come out. I don't know what it's going to be. It's going to be very interesting to see what the University of Texas rule, because that may impact them going forward, especially if it's some language in there that's going to say players, you have to do A, B, and C. So I'm going to be interested to see what that report say and see if the two can't meet in the middle or whatnot.
Yeah, and you're right about that. I did hear that. They were talking about that on 105.3 The Fan here in Dallas. Is they have their independent assessment, or their independent people that are going to come in and review it, which I think that part is important, as long as those people have no ties to UT. If they don't have any ties and you got fresh eyes on the situation, I think then you can get a real perspective and not kind of a narrow perspective. But then you have Sarkisian's going to have to coach these guys.
Yeah.
And how these are human beings. Yes, they're NFL players. I mean, they're football players. And people just say, oh, you just go out there and not allow that kind of stuff to get in your way. But they're humans as well. They have feelings. They already vocalize the things that they feel. So I'm interested to see, are some guys going to opt out, or some guys going to get in the transfer portal? That could also be something that could come down the line. Yeah,
and see, like Texas, Austin is a progressive city in a way. In some ways, they're kind of progressive. They're like a little they're kind of like a San Francisco. Like they're kind of progressive. So I would expect when this report comes out, I would expect them to try to meet in the middle, because of the fact that you don't need a bad black eye, public relation black eye right now. Steve Sarkisian has, I think, the number 4 recruiting class for next year. Top 5 recruiting class already. Potential to be maybe top 3. So he's already rolling in recruiting. So I think you don't want to come out with a report that's going to paint them in a bad eye. I think, and this is just my perspective, they're probably going to give the players the right to stand up if they want to, and the right if not. That's what I think they'll probably do. And I could be totally wrong, but I think they're going to give the players that trust, because this is a public thing, man. And when you got this article being written by the U.S. Today and so on and so forth, what you say carry a lot of weight. And if you come up with bad overtones, you could turn off a lot of future recruits. So it's going to be interesting to see that. But I think it's going to be some meeting in the middle, because they don't want to stop the momentum that they've gotten right now with a new head coach.
Yeah, I agree. And him coming from Alabama is huge. We talked about this, a couple of weeks ago. Like, what are they going to do? Urban Meyer goes to the NFL. Sarkisian's there. And there's been a lot of conversation with him, but what he did at Alabama is gonna bring recruits.
Yeah,
that alone. Yeah.
And you said something a while ago too. How is he gonna coach? He's put together good staff, but the thing is, if you win, it's amazing how a lot of these stories go away.
Oh,
when
yeah.
you win, if the Texans go out there, they can win 10 games, 11 games, they can beat OU in the Red River Shootout. There's some of that noise is going to get quiet. We don't hear it no more. Why? Because you're winning. When you don't win, everything is a distraction.
Oh, yeah, that's true. And you have no games going on right now. So you don't have anything to say. Let's write a story on them playing Iowa State this week, because you don't have that. So now you just gotta deal with this firestorm right now, which I think, and you're right, Austin is progressive. So I think they're going to come to a middle ground. But I don't know. Oh, go ahead.
And I don't know the age of the donors. I mean, I guess we can kind of use our imagination, but I wouldn't be surprised if this was a lot of older money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Meaning, I don't know. For instance, let's say Texas, they're bored. I'm assuming their board might be around a certain age demographic, but it'll be interesting to see who's making decisions, like the people that Texas hired to come in and kind of do their own report, because the older crowd may have their set ways of tradition, and the new way may have their set. So it'll be interesting to see also the age of the people who was even making this report, because some people are not reluctant to change. So that's another perspective, is who is the power shot callers down there? Because if they're the old guard, they might not want to be in.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. It is definitely old money that's controlling this, because that you just think about guys that have oil money, which all of that stuff runs deep in the family. And you talk about the electricity, all the power that they have. We talked about that on a couple of past shows about all the storm and everything that happened. That's a whole nother story. But I think
I missed that one.
Yeah, we did that on a Monday night. I'm gonna get your thoughts on that too, if you got time.
Yeah, I got time, man. Yeah, we good.
Okay, cool. So I mean, it's that money runs deep, and if you say we don't want to do something that we've been doing, because it's just like that story, like we've been doing this all these years, we're not gonna change it just because a couple people say they don't like it. We did it the year before that, and all the years prior. Now, one thing I do want to bring up, Ricky Williams and Earl Campbell. Obviously, Earl Campbell are great. And then Ricky Williams said, hey, this song is something that we, I think he said, Ricky or Earl said, we cherish the song, and it's something that we have been at the school. I'm going to look up the exact quote. But what's your thoughts on some of the players that are okay with the song and they don't think it's an issue?
Well, I think that's a great question, Ben. That was a really great question, because that's a real one. I think as you respect Ricky Williams, he's one of the legends. Earl Campbell, one of the legends. In fact, the Texas named their field after those two, I think, last year or this past year or whatnot. So you respect their opinion, but I think also they came up in a different time. For instance, you had Earl Campbell back in the day. I don't know if I figured that maybe the 70s. Then you had Ricky Williams. But now we're entering in a type of progressive age where the players are I don't want to use the word woke to kind of like a cute type of word, but we're everybody's kind of woke, if you will. So we're in a different time now. So we're in a time where the players they're not just gonna they it's like they're conscious. They want to know what's behind this song.
Right. They're asking questions.
Yeah. I think back in Ricky time, especially Earl Campbell time, it was just, we're glad to be here to play football. We're immersed in this culture, and that's what it is. Whereas the players now, they're saying, hey, what is this culture that we're in? Is it a healthy culture to who we are as people? So it's kind of an age gap thing. I think you can respect Ricky and them, but also you have to respect the players that are playing right now. Some of these captains, they might not be as famous as Earl Campbell, but they're still impactful players and captains on the team. So you got to listen to your boys who you got now. So, I think it's an age gap thing there as well, because the players now are in a different age right now.
Yeah. And I think too, they want to know, is this inclusive to us? Does this include us as people? Us as players on this team, and us as kids that go to the school. So Earl Campbell's quote, I want to read this. He said, I'm proud of that song. I think there's a lot of things that can be done other than that song, in my opinion. I just believe the Eyes of Texas stands for something. Now, in some part of his quote, I do agree. I think there are a lot of things that can happen. But I think there are things throughout, like there's things on every level, right? There's things at a song level. There's things at a judicial level. There's things at a government level. It goes up. So you got to think at what level are these guys? What can they control? And this is something that they can possibly control. But Earl's right, though. There's a lot of other things that we can definitely look at. But what most affects them during their time here at the school playing football?
So is Earl saying that he's a supporter of the song and it should stay?
Yeah, he's saying he's a supporter of the song. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and like I say, you have so many different variables to that, even from a business perspective. So let's say, Earl Campbell's he is Texas. He's intertwined with Texas. He does business with the Boosters of Texas. He has a meat packing company, if I believe. So you're talking about so much there that we have to almost disconnect not literally, but in a way disconnect them from the players now. Because
Right.
like I said a while ago, it's such a different time. And I think that's really what blew the mind of some of the young players is the fact that them hearing, hey, this could potentially mess with your job prospects. That hurt that really, I think that really offended the players, because in essence, it's like either do this or you're gonna hurt your future.
Yeah.
Whereas Earl Campbell them, that was the only thing they knew. You know what I'm saying? They didn't know no other way. But the players now, they're kind of seeing the language that are out there, and that really rubs them on the wrong way. But I still think there's something that the university can overcome. You win, you meet in the middle, you can overcome it. But when you got one of your captains of a team and another guy that's going in the top 3 rounds of the NFL come out and say something, somebody better start listening.
Yeah. I mean, because that's going to affect you not just now, but long term. Now let me read Ricky Williams. He was quoted saying, "I think it's important to understand our history and to understand where the song came from. But I think it's more powerful to transform the meaning of the song and definition of the song rather than trying to erase our history like it never existed." So he's kind of playing both ends. It is important to understand the history of the song, because just like people have heard the saying, if you understand where you're going, you know where you came from, you know where you're going. And with this, if you know where it came from and where it was being basically, I think, encouraged at, like, that's the part that could potentially hurt. But give me your thoughts on Ricky's.
Now, I will say this. We live in a kind of cancel culture as well, which means that everything has to be politically correct. If you say a little wrong word, you're being this, you're being that. I think we have to be careful with that too.
Right.
Because it's like you can go too far one way or the other. You can love tradition too much, and then you can also be such a person of new age that you kind of forget where you came from. I think to me, I don't agree with totally having to wipe out histories, because they're there for a purpose. But I think in some ways you have to see how can we bridge this history, this historical institution that we have, and bridge it to the future. That's the hard thing about it. But I agree with Ricky in a little bit in that we have to be careful that we're not just canceling and erasing history, because they have a history. Now, if you want to say if it's good or bad, that's not for me to say. But they have a history there at the university. I don't think it's fair to just totally delete it. And I think maybe that's some of the gripe of the donors. Maybe they feel like if you're changing the song, you're changing this, you're changing the university that we helped build. And in fact, I think some of them kind of said that in so many words. They felt that it's almost becoming so, I don't want to say liberal, so kind of a progressive university that they're kind of leaving some of their origins behind. I don't know if that's true, but I've heard a little bit of innuendos of such. Yeah.
I mean, you're right about that. Like that is they're saying, hey, you're erasing something that we cherish, or something that maybe our grandfather's grandfather was a part of. I mean, and that, so it goes both ways, how our ancestors felt and how their ancestors felt is probably totally different, but you still fighting on the different sides.
Yeah, but in one issue I think that's with this, I talked about meeting in the middle earlier. I don't know how that looks from a standpoint of chemistry and camaraderie of a team. So you have your quarterback singing a song, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying just just kind of playing with it. You have your quarterback standing up for the song, but you have your star safety not wanting to stand up. So could the question I could pose is, could this be a situation where everybody on the team needs to be on one accord? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think that presents an even deeper point, because if everybody's going to have to be on the same page, that means everybody's going to probably have to stand.
Yeah. I mean, and that's probably going to be a conversation that's definitely going to have to be had, especially by the captains. And the biggest thing I think now too is with the transfer portal, that to me has changed college football forever. Because if you don't agree with something, you can just bounce. I mean, honestly,
now you really can.
If you're Justin Fields, you can have a reasoning for why you're leaving, and you could play the following year. It used to be you had to sit out. You look at a lot of different. So I mean, this whole thing, there's a lot of different angles to it, and obviously the players are feeling the same way.
But you just said something about the players being able to transfer. I think that opens up another can of worms. We're also seeing all across sports with the age of the player having what they call power. I think this transfer portal gives. Now I don't know. I always agree with it because some guys are running for competition, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
But it's giving guys a little bit of a power. If you think about it, you used to couldn't transfer without having to sit out a whole year, which that deterred one from transferring. One probably put up with stuff they one didn't want to. But now, if you're a decent enough player, or you just feel like you ain't got enough playing time, you can enter that portal. So it's kind of giving the players a little bit more power. So that's also something, you know, if you're a coach or you're an institution, you have to tread lightly because it's not a foregone conclusion that you can literally lose your star player or two.
Oh yeah, your quarterback, your wide receiver. I mean, basically, you name it, because we've seen it happen on every level. Justin Fields, I think, is probably maybe the biggest name that just left and got to play the next year.
Yeah, and I mean, he swung a whole. He's the type of guy that, you know, that talent can take you to a championship game, and it's like, okay, without him, now look at Georgia. They're a good team, but with him, they could have potentially won a championship. So that goes to show you, a player leaving to that magnitude is not a little thing, because that can either be the opportunity to win the championship or not. You know what I'm saying? Right. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, but they're gonna have to handle this sensitively, because if not, and that's another thing. You know, sometimes I think fans are so. And somebody said this too, a prominent writer down there, to saying how the fans are disconnected from the players, and that's what a lot of this whole thing has really taught him, is that the both sides are kind of disconnected.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You may not see eye to eye with the fans, and sometimes the fans don't agree. If we go to like the pro level, they don't agree with how much money these guys are making. Yeah. But you don't know what situation these guys are in. Not everybody manages their money well. Number one, and number two, they may want their kids to be taken care of, so they're gonna be looking out for that. So you know that goes to a lot of different directions. So yeah, since I haven't had you on in a while, you know, we had this whole Texas storm. Like, first off, were you good? And then give me your thoughts on the different levels of it.
Yeah, that was an experience, man. I'm pretty sure everybody heard about it, you know, now. But you know, we had an electricity shortage. I think we were out on and off for about a week. You know what I'm saying? And that may not sound like a lot, but you're talking about, you know, 4 days to a week. You know, 20-degree weather, 15-degree weather with no electricity. When we're used to 80s, 90s, and 100 degrees, it was kind of like stuck in the house, couldn't go nowhere. Then when you did drive, we're not used to driving in the snow. So it was, you know, just make you be grateful for the heat. Make you grateful for everything, really. But it was a little bit of a challenge. I think it was a frustration on my part, looking at how the state handled so much of the power outages, and, you know, one part of downtown lit up and then another part is not. So it was just frustrating to see how it was a bit inconsistent. And it didn't make a lot of sense to me. None of it made sense. You know, none of it made sense, to be honest. I heard what they said, but it's like, we use all this electricity in the summer because it's so hot. All of a sudden, a snowstorm, you know, left us like this. So I think a lot of people kind of felt it didn't make sense either. And I just heard one of the companies went bankrupt. Yeah, it's just kind of a weird scenario. I'll be interested to see what comes from that. But glad we got through it, man. I know a lot of people are really going through tough times, not having no heat and having babies and this, that, and the other.
Yeah, I mean, it was wild. For the first time, I learned about ERCOT. I didn't even know who that was. So I figured that out. And then, a lot of people out of power. The way they handled it, though, was like, initially, you know, those that don't know the details of it, they initially said it's going to be rolling blackouts, 15 to 20 minutes. 15 to 20 minutes turned into hours at a time. It was almost like you didn't know when it was going on and when it was coming off. So when it came on, you had to like hop on the stove, try to cook something, or charge your phone up. It was almost like you were living in the woods somewhere, and like you didn't. I mean, there was nothing. Something I never experienced before, but some people had it worse. So I didn't have it on that end. Some people didn't have electricity for like 48 hours, which then turns into pipes bursting, which then turns to water flooding in your house. So, and then the water ended up freezing because it can't keep warm. So, I mean, like it was so deep. And then the ERCOT, I seen this come across my timeline that he, I don't know if he got fired or he stepped down, but also he rejected his $800,000 buyout. So that's it's interesting to see where this is going to go, because if this happens again, which I think that it will, and climate change and the way everything is going, this could happen again. And will they be prepared? Is going to be my question from here on.
And I mean, I know some people have said that the Texas was supposed to upgrade their grid some years ago, if I'm not mistaken, and they chose not to. I don't know who responsible for who. I don't know if it's Texas, if it's the energy company. I just think whatever it costs to build an efficient, I don't know if you call it electronic grid, whatever the right name of it is. I don't care if it's billions of dollars. You have to do it, because you see that if something like this have happened, and it's a possibility that it's going to happen again, that you say as the climate is going through such a different kind of cycle, you need to make sure that you build your system so that people can be safe. And I don't, you can't be cheap with that. If that costs $2 billion, $3 billion, you're going to have to do it. So it's going to be interesting to see if Texas is going to fix this issue, or if they're going to, kind of skip around it. Because some people have said, they didn't want to fix it. They didn't want to invest the money into it to really build that infrastructure the right way. So we'll see if we learned our lesson, because this same thing happened in the 80s, man. I didn't realize that, but they did a news report. And in the 80s, people were mad. They were like, man, this shouldn't happen. In the same, 20, 30 years later, we said the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, and then in 2011, that was when the Super Bowl was here. Yep. Kind of a similar thing went down. Now I don't know if the power was the issue during that time, but I do know they had the Super Bowl in Arlington at the new stadium, though all those lights were lit up. So if anybody else had power issues, people had to be upset. But you fast forward to now, the Mavs are going to play a game one night, and then the Stars are going to play a game the following night. And the mayor was like, hey, do you see what's going on around the city of Dallas? And you go play a game, which the amount of electricity you're going to burn up. So they reluctantly they changed their mind. Now, if nobody said anything, I wonder if they would have still played that game.
And see, that's a part of my frustration, Ben, because to me, that means you have electricity. If you can power up downtown, you can power up American Airlines Center, you can power up this arena, you have some power. So to me, I felt like they were kind of playing with the people a little bit, because it's like we could give you power, but we're doing a rolling blackout, so we can't. It's like, man, dump the politics. If you can give the people power, give them power. Right. It just seemed like a lot of games were being played at the expense of the people. And man, a lot of people were really upset. A lot of people really upset. I was on Twitter, at that time, and a lot of people were just they weren't understanding it.
Yeah, no. I mean, all over. I mean, the comments, and then you have people on the outside, which that's the part I was interested to hear what people on cities outside or states outside of Texas were thinking. And at first, people were like, "Oh, it's just snow. Y'all got to deal with it." And then when it was day after day after day of power and everything else, they were like, "Oh, wow. I mean, this is a real situation that they're dealing with."
Yeah, I've heard people, I think, like Iowa, up north in Milwaukee, they were like, well, we deal with a lot of snow. We never had these problems. Granted, Texas is bigger, more population, but it was interesting to hear how some people were like, we deal with worse snowstorms and none of our electricity go out. I don't know if that's a valid, way to gauge this issue, but I've heard a few people say that. They were like, man, we get hammered with way more worse weather than this, and we've never seen, blackout stuff like this. So it's kind of interesting. It kind of puts a black eye on how we handle it. And, I'm not trying to talk about our elected officials, but some people, even from up north, was surprised how it was getting handled.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a real conversation to have, because when you have one of the guys, like, listen, I'm gonna go ahead and mention it. You got one of the guys that going to Cancun with all this going on. I mean, like, you got to be sensitive to the people that voted you in. Like, I'm not saying you gotta stay in your house and shiver because people were going to hotels and stuff. Yeah. But if you going to a vacation resort type area, like that's a red flag.
Not a good look. Yeah, that's not a good look. Yeah, nah, that's real. That's real. So we out of it right now. It's about 70 degrees now, or whatever. So that was a learning experience. But man, if this weather comes back, it's going to be interesting to see if that happens again because, like you say, you have the electricity come on. Let's charge your phone real quick. Then next thing you know, it cuts off.
Right.
It was wild, man. It was like you were thirsty for electricity because you didn't know when you were going to be able to have it again.
Yeah. Which that's just a wild kind of spot to be in. Appreciate you for coming on tonight. We got another guest coming on here in a minute. I'll definitely, be in contact with you as always for future shows. But let me know what you're working on now. I see you going to track meets and swimming events, man. You're doing some big things.
Yeah, man, it's just growing, just living by faith, and that's actually what it really is, living by faith. Next week, this past week I filmed a game at Dallas County Community College, Eastfield versus North Lake, which these are like Division III, y'all. These are really small schools, but so that was really cool. Wasn't no fans there, but it was a lot of energy. Yesterday I went to the state playoff game, Kimball Knights versus Lancaster. Lancaster was, I think, the #1 team in the state in that division. They beat Lancaster. They came back from, I think, 18-point deficit, which was so I came in at halftime, and I was like, this game is over. And I took a picture of the scoreboard. They came back and they won it. So that was a fun experience. Next week and a half, I film a little Division III baseball. So if anybody want to hit me up, I'm on Twitter. I talk a lot of high school ball, a lot of football on Twitter. DeAnthony 91, Hood Scout. That's pretty much it. Hey, we got the playoffs coming up in basketball, man. Coming out of this All-Star break, we're gonna have to talk about that.
Yeah.
Kyrie, I think Kyrie now the favorite. You got people still talking about LeBron. My Clippers are looking like, I don't know, they need a real point guard. So maybe we'll be back on talking a little hoops, man, because can Utah come out the West?
Yeah, really. That's a real conversation to have. Can they run with the Lakers of the world? Because the Lakers just got better with Gasol, Dennis Schroeder, and Montrezl Harrell. I mean, like the names that they added, it's not even fair, the roster on paper. But we all know on paper does not always equal a championship.
But we're also saying that about Brooklyn. I mean, I just heard they might get somebody was bought out of their contract. It was a big man.
Blake Griffin.
Griffin. I heard him linked to them. I've heard Cuz I like the way the Nets are built. I like the way the Lakers are built. I think I trust the Nets a little bit more right now because we don't know the health of AD. Then you got Philly. Philly, man, Joel Embiid look like the MVP. So we'll come on. We'll talk about that, man. I know you got another guest coming on, but
definitely. Yeah, and the next week I'm doing a show about creators, so that'll be. But the week after that, we'll talk NBA because playoffs coming up. We got the NBA All-Star game, which that they were kind of reluctant to do that, but we definitely got to have an NBA kind of roundtable show. I think that'll be dope to get the minds on. But as always, man, thank you for coming on.
Hey, man, thank you for having me, man. Y'all take care. Y'all have a good next show, and we'll catch up.
All right, definitely. Appreciate it.
Okay, brother. Take care.
All right, peace. All right, that was my guy DeAnthony Thompson. I always love his perspective and the way he delivers his takes. He has been on a variety of different shows. We actually met at church that we both used to attend. And he's a really, really good, solid dude. You can follow him, DeAnthony91 on Twitter. And he is the hood scout, man. And he gives you really good takes on, high school level, college level, and so forth and so on. So coming up next, we have Vinnie Hardy of Cats Talk Wednesday. He hosts that show with his good friend, Terry Brown. And I really love what he does because they talk really strictly Kentucky basketball, but also, they do a variety of different topics and other sports as well. So they're a really good show. I really like what they do and how they do it, and you just see the partnership that they have together. They've been working on this show, I believe, for 4 or 5 years, maybe even longer. but just what they do, I love it. This is a picture of them right here. On the left with the UK in the middle, that is Vinnie Hardy. He'll be coming on. And then on the right, that is Terry Brown, his co-host. So he'll be coming up on the show here in just a minute. Been a little hectic of a day for him, which I definitely understand that, man. It's been hectic for the past year, basically, especially with COVID going on. But I will bring him on here in just a moment. Vinny?
What's happening?
What's going on? What's going on?
Man, I'm good. How you doing, Ben?
Good. Glad to get you on the show.
Appreciate it. Sorry I'm running late, man. My bad.
No, you good. You good. Hey, man, it's Saturday, and it's late. So, people got stuff going on. I definitely get it. You got the UK sweater on. I don't know if you had that on just for the show. You had that on all day.
It's been a little chilly out here, so I had it on, but I might have threw a little something UK on or something sports on anytime I'm on the show.
Definitely.
I'll throw it on there, but been a little chilly out here. We've been out and about, been out doing stuff, but went and watched Coming to America 2 and getting kids put to bed and all that kind of stuff. So it was a little chilly out, so I threw this on, and it happened to be UK, so it's killing two birds with one stone.
There we go. Cool. At the end of this, I'm gonna get your thoughts on Coming to America 2. Not yet, but I'm gonna get your thoughts on this at the end before we end this thing. But talk about the show. I know you and Terry Brown. How long you guys been doing it? And kind of give those that are watching the depth on what you guys talk about.
It'll be 7 years in November with Terry and myself. Cats Talk Wednesday, recording on Anchor every Wednesday evening. And then thanks to you on BS3 now, Spreaker, and all the various different platforms where you've been able to get everybody distributed to, as well as all the other shows that are on the network. So we're definitely proud to be a part of it. The show centers around Kentucky. Myself and Terry Brown co-host it. Sometimes it's just two of us. Sometimes we have, cool guests on, a lot of UK guests. We've had, Kenny Walker. Let's see, Derek Anderson from the basketball side. Had Dick Vitale, Lee Steinberg, Sinbad, some of the guests we've had through the years.
Man,
Kentucky is the foundation of the show, but then we branch out, hit all the other sports as well. And TB and I don't agree on any of those. I'm a Cowboys fan. He's a Niners fan. I'm a Rockets fan. He's a Lakers fan. So, we clash on everything else, but UK is the centerpiece of what the show revolves around.
Nice. What would you do to get Coach Cal on the show? Or have you tried yet?
I have not tried Coach Cal. Been in some press conferences. I haven't even asked him a question in a press conference. I've asked Stoop some questions on the football side.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have to try to go through UK. Never tried for Cal. That's a big get.
That'll be a big name, yeah.
Yeah, we've had a track coach on. We've had the women's soccer coach on different times. Cal is about, it's the top dog.
Yeah. You would have to like jump out in front of his car. And then you're like, hey, I don't need you to pay for my broken leg. I just need you to come on my podcast. Man, a great coach. The one and done, I'm not gonna say he created that, but I am gonna say he was the one that welcomed it on, because it seemed like most coaches were like, no, we want you to stay. Like this is you're getting a package deal with this. You're getting education and you're getting the school experience. And it was like, hey, if this is best for this kid's family and their situation, I'm not going to stop them and say, don't do it. And you talk about Boogie, you talk about Anthony Davis. I mean, we could go down the list of all these guys. But when they get to the next level, it does seem like they're able to play, and they're not in a culture shock. I think that's one of the great things about Coach Cal.
Yeah, everybody blames it on him and acts like it's his rule. He's just playing the game according to the way the rules are first. and now you see, Coach K, he's starting to do one and dones, and Bill Self tries to get a couple. He was just doing it first. Wall and Cousins and those guys. They say it's the Cal rule. They say it's this and that, but he kind of just adjusted to things before everybody else got on board with it. And a lot of those guys are prepared to go to the NBA. Look at Emmanuel Quickly now. Which he stayed for 2 years, but a lot of Knicks fans didn't want him, didn't know who he was, and now they want him in the starting lineup and he attributes that to being prepared, playing at Kentucky. 24,000 people in Rupp Arena every night. Now you go to Madison Square Garden. It's not full now, but even when it is, it won't be anything to overwhelm him when he's in a packed arena, in the NBA arena again, whenever that happens, because he already been through that at Kentucky.
Yeah. And the one thing I like about you guys' that show, out of the many things, is you talk about all Kentucky. So you talked about women's basketball, you talking about men's basketball, you talking about football. I think you guys, like you said, talk about track. So I mean, you guys are like Kentucky, like through and through. So that's why I want you guys to check out this show, because it's a variety, but also it gives you stuff about Kentucky that you didn't know. Like you guys talked to Roger Harden. I didn't know who that was, so I looked him up and I was like, who is he? What? And so that's one thing I respect about what you guys do.
Oh man, we appreciate it. We appreciate it. Roger was probably the first point guard I can remember, going back to when I'm 6 or 7. He was the point guard when I first kind of started watching and knew who the guys were. He was there with Kenny Walker and some of those good teams in the 80s. But yeah, he's great, man. He's super interactive on Twitter. You give him a quick DM or a text and he's ready to hop on anytime. Always dropping knowledge. But yeah, he's a good dude, and we try to have fun with it and encompass all the Kentucky sports. Football and basketball, of course, are gonna always get everybody's attention, but we try to hit on some of the non-revenue sports because they're working just as hard, not getting as many eyeballs on them, but grinding just as hard as your football and basketball players are.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they got to put in the work. I mean, just because you get the scholarship or you get the opportunity, you gotta still be able to put in the hard work. So that's so true. Now, one of the things you touched on, you're a Cowboys fan. That's one thing we do have in common. So that's really good. I finally got some help. It was more Eagles fans than anything on BS3 radio. So I finally got some help here. But what team is Terry a fan of? I haven't heard him.
He's that's that oil and water. He's a 49ers fan. So
okay. So man, that goes back years. And the funny thing about me is I grew up in the Bay Area, so I actually grew up 49ers fan. I know that's blasphemous. And then I moved here to Texas, and I ended up going to the training camp. I met some of the players. They went to my church, and I was like, man, these are pretty good guys. And I started watching the game. It's not like we were winning anything, but it was like, hey, I could see this dude playing on Sunday, and earlier that day we was at church together. So it was like it kind of really brought things together, and I got more respect for, now Jerry, having respect for Jerry is always a flip-floppy thing. But
just sign the checks and sit down, but he won't do it. He won't do it.
Yeah, nah. But so since you were a kid, you were a Cowboys fan then.
Yeah, so that's the only pro teams my dad and I agree on. My dad was a Cowboys fan, still is. And so I was a Cowboys fan right there along with him. We got different pro sports and everything else, but I was a Cowboys fan right there with him. That's the pro team that we both, have happiness and sadness about, depending on how they're doing.
True. So a little bit of backstory. I think me and Vinny met via social media or via podcasting. I don't know, probably 3 or 4 years ago, maybe. Since we met, I don't remember how we met, but somehow we ran into each other. I don't know if you remember.
I don't know if it's through BMO or something. Maybe y'all were tweeting or something. Yeah. He's a Dallas guy, and we had him on quite a while back too. And I used to follow most sports. I don't know if I saw I followed him and it said suggested follow was yourself, or I saw him retweet you or something. I'm not even sure now myself.
Yeah, but glad we did meet, and I think it's always great to catch up with people that you've known for a couple of years, supporting each other, listening to each other's shows, and then to have you a part of BS3 Radio is pretty big. Pretty happy about that. So you guys record on Wednesdays, and then it uploads to BS3 Radio. It is on Anchor. Have you guys done? I was curious. Have you guys done shows on any other days, or has it always been Cats Talk Wednesday?
It's been pretty much Wednesday. And the thing about it, and we had you on a few weeks ago, and was glad to get you on when we first joined the network, and should have done it sooner, but definitely glad to have you on when we had you on a few weeks ago and got to get you on again. Terry and I did the first year and a half worth of shows, and we had never met in person. We met on social media as well, followed each other. He was writing for a website, and I was writing for a website, and just kind of saw some of the content he was putting out, and I was like, man, it was kind of weird, because I know he probably thought it was weird. So I'm like, would you have to be free on Wednesday evenings around 6? And he was like, yeah, why? And I told him what I was trying to do. Like to get a podcast started. And I think we'd be, because I thought, I wouldn't want to do it with like a Tennessee fan. There's some that do Kentucky, Tennessee, kind of the opposite, the rivalry type. And I was like, maybe we both do a Kentucky podcast. And he was game to do it. And we did, like I said, about the first year and a half, we hadn't even met in person. Cameron Mills, who played for Kentucky in the late 90s, if everybody remembers that 98 Kentucky Duke game, he hit the big three that gave Kentucky their first lead. They had been down by 17. Long story short, he gets his own radio show and a website. And so Terry and I met in Lexington because he had us on as guests on his radio show. So that's the first time we met in person after doing Cats Talk Wednesday for about a year plus before we finally actually chopped it up. So that was,
wow.
And that, I think about who is it, Tom Looney and JT the Brick. They used to do Won't Be in LA, Won't Be in Vegas, and I was like, I'm outside of Knoxville, TB in Louisville for a year and a half is how we did it. And it took a while to get the chemistry because you never met, but we just kind of got smoother and smoother every time, and still just trying to get better each time now.
Yeah, and you guys definitely got a flow. And man, TB can talk too, man. When he gets on a topic, man, I'll be like, man, I ain't heard this dude breathe. But I love that though, man. That just shows the passion.
He'll say it. I get on my soapbox.
Yeah, about to get on this rant, and then he's like, well, let me get off the rant now. But yeah, man, he will go in. But you guys really partner well together, which I think that's a really special part about what you guys do. And yeah, to have not met each other for like that amount of time and still be able to be co-hosts, like, and to be able to do it, as long as you guys have done it and virtually, basically. I mean, this is probably before virtually became obviously what it is in the pandemic, but you kind of didn't have a choice, but you guys have definitely rolled with it. Cats Talk Wednesday, which is on BS3 Radio. Go to bs3radio.com. You can find the show under the sports tab. Now let's talk about this movie, which we're going to be talking about this. Myself and 3 other guys will be talking about this on Monday on the Forecast podcast. So I'm not going to give my take because I'm going to hold that for then. But Vinny, how do you feel about the movie?
You had saw a few little reviews about it, or saw people write about it on Facebook, and I heard saw some 7 out of 10s. You saw some people like to complain and maybe not happy with anything. You saw people kind of poo-pooing it, but not as raw as the first one was back in the 80s, which is probably for the better. And you can't do some of that stuff then, now that you did then. but a lot of the references and people that seen it multiple times, and it worked in a lot of the stuff from the old one that you remember, the funny stuff that you like. You got your Randy Watson in there.
Yep.
I forget what we were talking about. It would have been cool maybe when Akeem walks out of McDowell's after talking with Mr. McDowell, and everybody was on the ground, crouched down on the ground. At that point, I think we all were thinking, maybe they brought Samuel Jackson back to rob it one last time.
Yeah.
That wasn't in there, but for the most part, I liked it. And look, for the record, I'm not a movie guy. There's so many movies I haven't seen. People make fun of me. Coming to America is one that I've seen many times, and was excited to watch Coming to America second part. John Legend at the end singing "She's Your Queen."
Yeah.
And the outtakes was cool.
Right.
Everybody pretty much in there except Sam and of course Alien, who wasn't in there. Madge Sinclair had passed away. I liked it, man. I liked how they kind of worked everything in, and cool little angle with the sun, and I was good with it, man. I'm not a critic. I'm not a Cisco or Ebert. So I was cool with it. I liked it. I enjoyed it.
Cool. Well, and I was very intrigued to see how are you going to do this after 20 years? And the first one, like you said, was just raw. Like that was the first time I think we've seen I don't know, like Black people in that way, like as kings and as somebody coming from a different country, from Africa, and coming over to the US as a prince. I mean, and it was funny, like people still quote the original one to this day. Like I will just quote it at random times. I mean, it may not even make any sense, but I'm like, sexual chocolate. I mean, sometimes I just like, because it just comes up in your head of like stuff that you remember.
Yeah.
So I was very interested to know, how are you going to tie all this in? And they made it happen. It came to Amazon. What a better time for this to happen than for it to now, did you go see it in the theaters, or you seen it on?
No, it was on Prime.
Okay. Yeah, because I was gonna say I didn't think it was in the theaters, but what a better time now with people at home, like old, young, middle age, like that have seen it, and then they can watch it on Amazon. Like it really doesn't get any better than that, because you don't have to go anywhere. I mean, you can sit down and watch it in the comfort of your own home. I think this was like perfect timing.
Yeah, still the barbershop scenes, all of that was still intact. And I like how they, in the first part, they're talking about, Rocky Marciano and Joe Louis. And then in this one, they're talking about Mayweather and mispronouncing Pacquiao's name. So they're still talking boxing, and they just get the fighters, to be with the times, and, all those little details. I liked it.
Yeah. But they did it, man. And Eddie Murphy is still classic. Seeing him, alongside Arsenio Hall was great. Get James Earl Jones in there, classic, man. James Earl Jones is a acting treasure.
Mm-hmm. Now Clarice wasn't in there though. I didn't see her. Lisa's sister, was she not?
Yeah,
in there?
I was hoping they would have did that. That would have been great.
Okay.
And then if they would have somehow put Eric LaSalle in there,
right?
I don't know how they would have did that, but I read in a quote early on that he was like, "I'm not gonna be in it," and I don't know if he just because he didn't want to or he had something else going on, but to put him in it, I thought would have been a little bit of a good cameo. But they had a ton of cameos, a ton. Rick Ross, Wesley Snipes, obviously we knew that one, but just a ton of people popping in. Leslie Jones, Tracy Morgan, So man, they put it together. So I got respect.
And filming at Rick Ross's house.
I know, like that's wild alone by itself. He probably got a nice hefty check for that.
Yeah, and just that was kind of Tyler Perry-ish. That just use my house for it. Just use my estate for Zamunda, the palace. I'm like, man, yeah, Ross.
So I'm not gonna go too deep in it. I'll be talking about that on Monday's show right here on BS3 Radio. But Vinny, thank you for coming on tonight. I know you said you had a hectic day, but thank you for taking time out late night to come on Cats Talk Wednesdays on Wednesdays. Obviously, it's in the name.
That's it. So yeah, we talk about the Cats on Wednesday, man. Ben, thank you so much for having me. Sorry I was, late getting in the door. Should have been here 11:30. My apologies. But man, appreciate you, everything you're doing at BS3, and appreciate you having TV and myself and our show as part of the network, man. Enjoy.
Definitely. And you were a vocal part in us winning the Family Feud championship versus my family X Squad. That was fun. That was go back and check that out, you guys. It's on the BS3 Radio Facebook page. I may go ahead and put that up on YouTube too. That may be fun for people to watch because it was pretty hilarious. But you were very vocal in us winning that, so thank you for that.
I was trying. That's why I want to ask you if it was just sports. Was it regular? I was trying to get my mind sharpened up a little bit. But they get out to a little quick early lead, and then as Clark Kellogg likes to say, we hit them with that spurt ability.
Right. Yep. And from there on, it was gone. Yeah. Now, before I let you go, March Madness coming up. We're in March. It's coming right around the corner. Do you have a team or a short list of teams that you see can maybe win this whole thing?
Short list real quick. I'd have to go Michigan and Illinois. It's going to be Big Ten heavy, maybe. It's so crazy, though.
Yeah.
It's Baylor's got a squad. They've been on pause, and they're kind of rusty. But and then, with so many blue bloods struggling, Kentucky's not going to make it unless they run a table and win the SEC tournament. That means win 4 games in 4 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And the most games they've won this year is 3. A 3-game winning streak 2 different times is their biggest winning streak. Now they got to win 4 straight. That's going to
be hard.
But, Carolina's kind of turned it around. Your squad, Duke and Michigan State were struggling. Kansas is going to make it. They're not the same Kansas. To me, if Gonzaga doesn't do it this year, I don't know if they're ever going to do it.
Yeah, really, man. Like I'm not a Gonzaga fan. Everybody know I'm a North Carolina fan, but I'm kind of rooting for Gonzaga, man. They had so many opportunities. They had the 1 year against Carolina, they didn't do it. Yep. So like you're kind of on the top of the hill right now. You got I know they got a top 5 talent. What's the kid? Suggs, I believe is his name, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, like if you don't do it this year, you might as well just just hang it up.
All the blue bloods are down. You better pounce in there and
yeah. do it while you can. And North Carolina beat Duke tonight. This is like my 4th time saying it. I'm probably gonna say it again tomorrow. Yeah. Swept them this year, which again, these 2 teams are not the same, so I get it. But if we don't win 1 game a year and we beat Duke twice, I'm good. I'm happy. I can go to sleep happy.
I feel you. I know exactly how you feel.
But Vinny, man, thank you for coming on. Have a great night. Make sure to follow Cats Talk Wednesdays on Facebook. They got the Facebook page. Also, they're on Twitter. And then Vinnie Hardy on all avenues of social media. Terry Brown as well. So have a good night.
Appreciate you being, man. Thanks so much.
All right. You too. Thanks. All right. That's my man, Vinnie Hardy. Man, we go back a little ways. I remember probably like 3 or 4 years ago, he was listening to one of my shows and I was checking out his as well. And it's just been pretty great, man. Pretty great to get to know these people, to get them on the show, to have them as guests, and then to have them join BS3 Radio has been really great. So let's go through the shows that recently joined. Now, I haven't done one of these types of shows in a little while. So Vinny and Terry, they joined about a couple months ago. Raising a YBK, they joined about 3 months ago. And then Unscripted joined 2 months ago. So here we go. We got Cats Talk Wednesdays with my guy Vinny and Terry Brown. We also got the Unscripted podcast with my man Jay McLovin, Big Shaw, Melanie, which is Jay's wife, and then Logan Landers. And then we have the mother and son duo with Raising a YBK, Young Black King. All of these are found on bs3radio.com. Make sure to subscribe right now to this video. Make sure to click the bell to get all of notifications. Also, if you feel led to donate to our show, to the BS3 Radio show and family, with the super chat, there's a dollar sign down below by the comments. You can hit that sign, give us any donation that you feel, $1, $5, $10, $15. And we will be back on Monday with the show called The Forecast with myself, A-Trap B, he was in the comments, Ivan Dawkins, and my coworker and friend, David Wilkes. And we're going to be reviewing Coming to America. So you don't want to miss this. We got some great takes. It's going to be funny. It's going to be real. And it's going to be raw. So make sure to tune into that. The following Monday, we will be doing a review on Judas and the Black Messiah. So you can tune into that one as well. We have a guy, A-Trap B, which grew up in Chicago. He's in Chicago now. The house that Chairman Fred Hampton was murdered in is down the block from him. He has family members that are Black Panthers. So that show is going to touch really close to home for one of our co-hosts. So you can definitely check out that one. And last but not least, next week on this show, Late Night with BS3, we'll be doing a show on creators or creatives. And we will have a few people on to talk about what they do and how they're creative. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. We got UFC 259 going on right now. North Carolina beat Duke. I said I was going to say it again. Also, we got the NBA All-Star Game and dunk contest and all of those festivities tomorrow. So we got a great weekend of sports. You guys have a great night. God bless. God is love. Peace.